Hey Dan,
Hey Zon, what's up?
is it, anything interesting happened lately?
Well, I got that new Chick Track wallet. Charlie Kirk is dead, and I had firsthand contact with Brad Stine, and there's an
What?
hour and a half conversation I had with him, and we're gonna talk about it. So
Holy
all
cow!
that
Yeah,
and
we should
more.
talk about that tonight. That's a good idea.
Yeah, all that and more on
Zadenza.
what? Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Zadanza. I'm Objectively Dan. My green screen is crazy on this. I got this new shirt that my wife gave me, and I kind of like it. I kind of like it. It's kind of like a cool, like 3D effect, like you'd see in Back to the Future or something. And then that's Prophet Azad, aka Zodric, Zodric, Zodric Lamar. Hello,
That is my
Zodric.
legal birth name.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
That's what I'm sure Mrs. Lamar named me.
Zod, you were sick last week, and I was like kind of burnt out from work. So I was like, yeah, let's just call it a mulligan on the show because it was like Wednesday, and so I wasn't really prepared to host on my own. I probably, if I really wanted to put effort into it, I could have, but I didn't, and I'm glad I didn't. But damn, did we pick a week to not be on the fucking internet? Holy shit, a lot of stuff happened last week.
Yeah.
That we could have definitely talked about. So
And I'm
I
still
don't
not feeling
know.
great, so I apologize for my voice, and if I cough, I'll try to mute it. But last week I basically couldn't even talk, and I was
Yeah,
dizzy and everything. But
you were
it
feeling
stuck
bad.
around. But I think I'm all right this week.
Yeah. So thoughts and prayers to Zod. The hopes that he gets better. Because he needs it. He's still sick. I do have the Chick Track wallet. I have not opened it yet. So we'll do an unboxing.
Yeah,
Live.
the chat started going wild when you brought that
Yeah.
up. They really want
We
to see
should
his
we should
wallet.
we should do it in a second. But folks, it's time because I've been teasing this secret for a while now. And that is I convinced Brad Stine to get me onto his podcast. And this has been months in the making. I emailed that man, I think it was in July or June, and I sent a real long, thoughtful message and said, "Hey, I saw your." It was after we watched him talk about William Lane Craig. He was talking with William Lane Craig, and I was like, "Hey, I saw that you wanted to talk to an atheist on your show. Here, I'm an atheist. I'm Objectively Dan. I do this thing, Truth Wanted, and you should talk to me." And I got like radio silence for a long time. So I was
Wait,
like,
hang.
I guess this didn't go anywhere. Yes.
You
Yeah.
said I do this thing called Truth Wanted, not I do this thing called Zadanza.
We're gonna get to that. 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 Okay. And at first I couldn't actually get through his website. Here's a fun side story because like I had to like book him. So I tried to book him for a day and he was like, "Oh, hey, I can't do this date." And I was like, "That's okay. I just wanted to get to your email so I could talk to you." And we finally made it happen. Um I told him what my work schedule was and stuff. I had to do this interview with him at 8 a.m. my time. Um, and it ended up being 8.5, not 8.5, sorry, an hour and a half long. I was late to work, late getting started on work. Because I was in this conversation and I was dedicated to it. And I wanted to see how things would go, and it was something. Now, as you mentioned, Zod, I didn't mention Zidanza. And later, after we did this interview, he did email me saying, "Hey, I found this other channel of you like talking about my stuff. Or it looks like you're talking about my stuff. I don't know if that you mentioned it or not. I can't wait to watch it."
Or I
And
think he said his son saw it or
yeah, he
something
said
like
his
that,
son
right?
saw it. That he said he was going to watch it. I did not respond to this email yet. And so um there's a very good chance that Brad is watching this right now. And I have some words for Brad. I am genuinely sorry that I didn't talk to you about the Zidanza thing because how could I? How could I express that we've known about Brad Stine for like a year and we've talked about him and we read his book, but also I wanted to have like a real genuine conversation. I really did. Because I was just really fascinated at what it would be like to talk to the guy. So I'm glad that we did that. And I'm giving him content. I'm doing it for his show and stuff. And so, it is what it is. And he was very personable to me off camera. I can say that much. And he obviously loves his son very much. I got to meet his son. You know, that's great. But the problem is, of course, that you can be nice to somebody in person and be very personable and still say nasty things, right? Like, I'm glad, Brad, that you have a great relationship with your son, but the gay people and the trans people that you talk about, they're the childs of somebody too, right? And so
Yeah.
when you have all these nasty opinions and say all these nasty things about people and say that people like me can't understand morality or, have a real purpose in life, that's also bad and that needs to be called out. So anyway,
So real quick, in your correspondence, as I understand,
yes.
he told you we can have a conversation. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I think he told you we can have a conversation, but you have to understand it's going to be from the perspective that I don't think you understand.
Correct. Correct. So this is what makes it interesting because it's not really a debate. It's more like I'm going to platform this argument and I want you to see kind of what you think about it, I guess, is kind of how I would like paraphrase this.
Yeah.
And he used the word interview, but the thing is, Zod, he definitely talks way more in this video than I do. For I would say quite extended periods of time. And now got really frustrating. Here's another thing. I definitely got a little heated with this first. I spoiled it a little bit. I'll just go ahead and say it. He liked this interview so much, Zod, that not only did I do one with him, he emailed me a couple days later and said, "Hey, I want to do it again." So, guys, I got 2 interviews with Brad Stine, and he has not posted the second one yet. I don't know why, because we recorded these a few weeks ago now. And I wanted to wait for him to post it on his channel so we could look at it, on his channel. I really hope he posts the other one. Because I do have a recording of the other one, but it just has my face on it because I had to set up the recording last minute on Zoom or whatever. So it has his audio, but it doesn't have his face. But anyway, like it was just very surreal. So I'll tell you that much. A lot of things happening here. So I think he enjoyed the conversation. I think he did.
Yeah.
I think he thought it made him look good. At least the first time around. I will say the second time it went a lot better. So I definitely got a little heated this time. I will say in the years that I've been talking to Christians, Zod, this was the greatest test of my patience I think I've ever had, like doing this kind of interview setup on YouTube, like period. Because I'm trying to be super nice. I'm trying to make sure this thing gets posted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe I was too nice. I don't know. But yeah, a lot of thoughts there. A lot of things happening for this one.
So we got one interesting comment. It was so weird to see Dan's face all over Brad Stine's Instagram this week. And I just went and checked, and yeah, you're all over his Instagram
Yeah,
reel.
he's posted me. That's great. First of all, you guys are on Brad Stine's Instagram. That's interesting. But also, yeah, AR saying I bet Dan was on my best behavior. I wore a shirt and tie for both the interviews. Now, I did do the first one before work. And I had some client calls that day. So it it was still worked out for me anyway. But I want to make sure I was looking good for this. By the way, let me here's a side tangent. I don't know if the message didn't get translated to him the first time, but like I had to work around my work schedule to do this again at 8:00 in the morning, my time. And then after the interview, he's like, if you want to do this again, when's a good time for you? I was like, yeah, let's do this like at 6 or whatever when I'm not at work. Cause like, I'm pretty sure Brad doesn't go anywhere during the day. Like, I think his podcast thing, I mean, maybe he's shooting movies and stuff. I don't know. But it's like, I work a 9 to 5, bro. Like, you had to cut into my 9 to 5. Like, really? Like, we couldn't work around that for this thing. I don't know. Anyway, Yeah. So this was also before the Charlie Kirk stuff last week. So we didn't have any conversations about that. Some people were asking about that. This was like recorded 2 or 3 weeks ago now. So
We're
I
getting a lot of
imagine that would
questions.
make our conversation very different. Yeah.
We're getting a lot of questions too, wondering if Amy
Mm.
Grant ever came up. I think that's been the dominant thing throughout the chat
Okay.
so far
Listen,
tonight.
again, at this point in time, he didn't know about Zidanza and the lore. Okay. If that's too much of a deep cut, I thought about organic ways to bring it up and it just couldn't happen. Okay. I really wanted to drop an Amy Grant reference to see if anything would happen with that. It didn't work out, but I was undercover somewhat for this because, and again, I do feel a little bit bad about that because I don't want to be surreptitious, but at the same time, how could I have ever accomplished this? How could I have ever pulled this off? Because we talk about Brad a lot, and at some point, Zod, like, I do want to off ramp it somewhat, like I don't want him to be the thing we talk about all the time. So like it has to go out with a bang. I have to do something big. You know what I mean? I don't know. I had a lot of thoughts going into this.
And really at this point, I feel like we've burnt out most of that content. I think there's so
I
many
agree.
ways you can talk about somebody like Brad Stine. And at this point, I think the main thing is when we do it the next chapter in his book. We're still working our way through his book, but we're not really being the Brad Stine channel at
No,
this point.
I don't
We didn't
wanna
want to
do
be
that.
the J. Warner Wallace channel, and now we don't want to
No.
be the Brad Stine channel.
No.
So I have some thoughts about the way you feel about this and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was saying some beforehand, and I'll share it with the audience now. I think it is a legitimate thing to wonder about whether you should feel a little bad or just, I don't know if bad's the right word, but whether you should question whether you should have talked to him and whether that was a totally honest thing to do without bringing up the past, how we talked on Zidan's and stuff like that. I can understand how that is something you might wrestle with.
Yeah.
But, I don't want to say but meaning to dismiss that, but there's another side to this, which is we all have two kinds of conversations around religion. In our case, one we have in a space like this where we're kind of just all venting and commiserating on the experiences we've had in religion and how it impacts all of our lives. And it's very natural to have a very blunt, sometimes sarcastic. You just have to vent things a little bit, have a little fun. If you don't laugh, you're going to cry, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of that about Brad Stine.
Yes.
I'm going to be frank and say he deserves it. Brad, if you're here, you deserve everything we've said about you. And
because I need you to understand, he is going to see it now. It's not up for debate. He is aware. I know it. It's gonna happen. So I don't know why it makes me feel that way, Zab, because like, we've talked a lot of shit, right? So
you're always going to feel that way when you see the person face to face. You always want to. Nobody wants to be, with a few exceptions, nobody wants to be really confrontational when they're talking to somebody. We all have that instinct to want to make nice.
True.
And so when you switch those modes, you're going to feel more like being polite, and you're also probably going to feel a little bit of an ick feeling about how we talked before.
Yeah.
That's a human instinct. But I don't think you need to feel beholden to that feeling or feel like let that turn into actual guilt. Unless you're wrestling with a question over whether you should have been more direct about our previous conversations. I don't know whether you should have or not. To complete my thought, I think the way we've talked about him was totally called for because honestly, the way he talks about other people is just absolutely horrifying.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to say, I don't mean a tit for tat thing. I don't think we've ever gone after his character anywhere in the neighborhood of how he goes after the character of atheists or leftists or people like that. There is a cutting way of getting right to the core of somebody's character that maybe we've suggested in jest, but it's all just laughing at things. I don't think we've ever gone after Brad to the point of saying that we've never said, who really freaks me out? Those Christians, like he says about atheists.
Sure.
And so we're basically punching back at the way he expresses himself. And I think that's a totally appropriate thing to do in this kind of context.
Yeah.
And Brad, if you're listening, I stand by everything I've said. If you ever want to get in a call with me, I'll say that to your face.
Listen, Brad.
I'm not saying you're an evil person, but the way you talk about people is vile, and we are right to talk about that on this channel. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that, and I would love to do another one with Brad after the fact and see what he thinks about it. But like the thing is too, like you said, we talk about the ideas a lot, right? And like Brad's definitely a quirky personality, right? I think that kind of helps in talking about it, right? But also like if it weren't for the things that he said, we would not nearly have talked about him as much as we have, right? Like if it weren't for all of the ideas that I agree are absolutely vile, and I didn't get to talk about a lot of that directly in this interview, spoiler alert, because again, this was more of a platform for Brad. I wanted to make this as comfortable for him as possible because this was kind of a new thing for him. And my goal again was to get this thing posted, right? And so maybe that led to me being holding back a little bit. But you know, I didn't expect that I was ever going to actually change Brad Stine's mind on anything. I literally did this because I thought it would be funny. And I think I'm right about that. But you know, yeah, that's
you
it,
can
man.
also hope to make a certain inroads. You're not going to change his mind,
Yeah,
but you can maybe plant little seeds that might. I think there's a little bit of a long shot with him,
yeah.
but it might impact how he sees the next atheist he sees. And so I think the flip side of that is we have a certain conversation here, and in this kind of space, when you're just with atheists, you always have to check yourself a little bit and try not to get too disrespectful, but you're going to have a certain kind of conversation where we're all venting.
Yeah.
Then on the other hand, you have the conversation where you're at the Thanksgiving dinner table with your family or just on the phone with your mom or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to talk the way you talk, hopefully, on an atheist stream space or whatever, or in the chat or anything like that. You're going to try to have a constructive conversation that builds bridges. And so I think it is valid for you to have had the conversation you had here and then went and tried to have a conversation where you build bridges and try to come to a certain amount of understanding with Brad.
Yeah.
Whether that should have been communicated up front where you came from before, I don't even think that's something you need to automatically feel bad about. I think that's more of a judgment call or a dilemma. Is it worth trying to, do I need to belt out everything I've said about him in the past in this other kind of space if it's going to obstruct having this other kind of conversation?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I can see how he might have feelings about it, and those might be valid.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a complicated thing.
It's a complicated thing, but it's done. It's out there. I really hope Brad posts the second interview because I really truly think that one went even like way better. I felt way better about it. In some ways, I think it's actually more boring than the first, interestingly enough, because I wasn't as heated during it. Because I think like some of the language was adjusted there. I don't know. I'm getting ahead of myself. We should probably just start talking about it because we're a couple minutes in. Yeah.
Can I add one more thing?
Of course.
So you might feel like you were a little duplicitous or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know that this is true, but I find the timing suspicious that I think this was very soon after your second interview. All of a sudden he messaged you saying, "Hey, my son says that you have this thing and I'm curious." And so I don't think it's totally out of hand to wonder whether he knew about Zidanza all the time. If he's done any kind of due diligence on you, which I know due diligence might not be his thing, but if they looked into you at all, I can't see how they wouldn't have found Zidanza at some point.
Yeah.
And I would not be surprised if they knew about this the whole time and then tried to throw you for a loop by bringing it up. Like, how does that suddenly come up immediately after your interview's over?
Maybe. It certainly didn't. It didn't. He definitely didn't know about it while I talked to him during the interviews. I think that there's good evidence for that. In fact, at the very end of the first interview, he said to go watch my podcast, Objectively Dan. And I told him that's not the name of my show. But, you know, lots of little instances like that. We'll get into that. But I'll tell you this much, Zod. I would do it again. I think I would do it again. Maybe. I don't know. Well, actually, would I do it? I don't know. Maybe I got to think about that a little more because I did enjoy it for myself. But again, I don't know his whole reaction afterwards. Maybe I would feel differently. if I heard from him from it. But anyway,
And we have a question. I just want to clarify this. Didn't Brad copyright claim you guys once?
yeah,
Brad never saw that. That's purely automatic. So
yeah, that was automatic. Also, like, even if it wasn't, like, that doesn't mean he would remember that. Like, if you've ever seen the copyright claim system, it's literally just, here's a video in your feed, and it goes straight to the part where it shows your material, and you can just boop, click it away. Like, if I know that because I've seen the atheist community of Austin do it through their like copyright stuff. So it's like, and they get a lot more than Brad
the
does,
number of
so.
people online who have played clips of Brad, he probably has so
Yeah.
many of those. Like,
Yeah, probably. That wouldn't be enough, I think, to recognize anything from that. But anyway, let's put this on screen. So this is one thing I didn't like as well. He posted this on his live, and I thought he didn't post it at first, because he didn't post it to his regular videos, but he made a live of this, which is weird because the first 45 minutes of this is him talking, and then the last hour and a half or so is like the actual interview, which was pre-recorded. I didn't do it live with him. So I don't know why he decided to do that, because I feel like that got less views.
he does this all the time. He talks to his son for 45 minutes before you or Jay Warner Wallace, whoever else is on. And I don't know why he thinks that's a good way to maintain views, but
I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I real quick? You haven't seen the intro. I did watch the intro.
Yeah, I only watched part of it. I didn't watch all of it.
And so one other thing that maybe can speak to this question of how you should feel about your participation in this is he basically spent a lot of this time talking about, I wouldn't say he went hard on you the way we go on him on this show, but he definitely spent a lot of time poisoning the well with his side of the argument and telling how wrong you are and stuff like that.
Yes.
But a couple things I thought were interesting is, one, he talks about strawmans. He says that he might have strawmanned a little in the first interview. And so he explains what a strawman is. Immediately after explaining what a strawman is, he starts talking about how atheists or the left or something like that believe these off the wall things about how, the universe, something about where the universe came from or how morality works or whatever. So he explains what a strawman is, and just like drastically strawmans another position.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'll tell you why he talks about that, because at the end of our first interview, he was asking me, well, what did you think about it? And I was like, I thought if you set out, you did what you set out to accomplish, basically. But also, like, I did get frustrated because I felt like, I don't know if I remember if I said straw manning, but I did feel like you didn't ask me for any of my positions on a lot of things. You just kind of kept saying the atheist position is this and atheist position is this. And he didn't really ask me like what I thought about some of these things. And that was very frustrating, because it's like, you're just putting stuff out there, and like, I'm not going to defend something I don't believe in, or maybe I do believe in it, but like, you're still making an assumption about it. Right. Yeah. It would be like if I just started going off about how like the earth wasn't flooded 6,000 years ago. Well, how do I know that Brad knows that or thinks that, right? Like, that is a Christian idea, but like, definitely Christians feel differently about it. Obviously atheists feel differently about it too, but like, poisoning the well, I'd say, happened a lot in this interview. There's like, he would go on these side tangents about how evolution wasn't real and stuff. And I wasn't really about like trying to interview or trying to talk to him about this. I will say in the description of this too, he says, while trying to reach consensus on the most important question in human history, is Christianity true? Which was like not like a big focus of our conversation. Like, I wanted it to be, but like, it wasn't. Most of this conversation is about like the meaning of life and like life purpose and stuff, and like objective purpose, and even more so in the second interview. So like, very weird framing on this, I'd say.
And so I think one way to put it is, and Brad, if you're listening, please take this to heart if you have conversation with future atheists. If you want to question an atheist about morality, just say, hey, I'm really curious how you can come to, do you believe in objective morality? What do you think that means? And how do you come to conclusions about morality? I'm just really curious how, from your worldview, you can do that. Not, from what I understand, atheism does not have a tenable position, and they just don't have any basis for this, and just rant about it, and then just basically say, "So your thoughts?" Like, come with curiosity. Don't sit there and explain, excuse me, why a position you assume they have is stupid and untenable. That's
Yeah.
not the opening to a dialogue. That's you
Yeah.
ranting, and then
It didn't feel like a dialogue through a lot of this sod. It really did feel like I was a platform for him to rant at, you know? And that was an uncomfortable position to be in because, again, I want him to post this, right? If I like start arguing too hard or pushing back too hard, he may feel like it's going completely wrong and may not want to do things. I don't know, right? I haven't sussed him out that way. I've only seen him on the internet. I don't know him, right?
I
So
think one thing we can tell though is just by watching him, he thinks atheists are just extremely wrong, and that he has his head fully around why they're wrong. And I
yes,
think when you think somebody is as wrong as he thinks atheists are, you don't approach not all. I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but it's going to be very easy to approach them, not to have a dialogue, but to instruct them, because you just think it's that black and white. So all there is to do
yeah.
is explain how what a failure their worldview is.
The humanity is saying, why does he have a sketch of Richard Dawkins? I mean, I know you're joking, and it's obviously supposed to be like Brad, but that does look a lot like a young Richard Dawkins. Like, I'm not
Yeah,
gonna
it
lie.
does.
That one on the right, that yeah, it's kind of interesting.
So
But
can I finish one last thought real quick about the
of
other thing
course,
he said? I'll make
yeah,
it really fast.
yeah,
So he kept telling you, and this went from before the show even started. He
yeah.
just
This
said,
is all. So just for context, this video is 2.5 hours long. I'm at the point right now in the video where the actual debate starts. So everything before this is preamble to this, and like him talking about like that baseball that got taken by that CEO or whatever.
so
Um,
yeah, he talks about how she took the baseball, and then he talked about, just what a total Karen she is and ragging on her and stuff like that. And then, but this is after he said the atheists don't have any basis for morality, because even if you think it's well, uh, well-being is the basis for morality, and this is the typical thing for Christians to say. What if I think it will promote my well-being to murder your family and take all your stuff and say other unspeakable things I don't want to repeat here. Um, but then when he's talking about this woman taking the baseball, he's like, I just wanted everyone in the world to troll her and get on her and stuff like that. And then I stopped and I thought, wait, would I want to live in a world where anybody who does any mistake on TV just gets totally dragged for the rest of their lives? I'm like, Brad, you just explained how you
yeah,
resolve part of this problem. You explained how secular morality works. Do I want to live
yeah,
in a world where this happens? Do I
yeah.
want to live in, if you want to go ransack someone's house and kill their family and take all their stuff, just stop and ask yourself, do I want to live in a world with, so he's there. When he gets to a possible apologetic, his mind short circuits, and he suddenly can't
I
understand
don't
how to
know.
get to the bottom of moral dilemma.
I had a really hard time convincing of that similar thing, right? But anyway, as really points out, are we going to get to this or not? He's right.
All right,
We've
sorry.
been at
Let's
this
go.
for 30 minutes. We should start this thing, I think. So here we go.
I hope you enjoy it. God's comic, Brad Stine, and Objectively Dan.
Oh boy.
Well, folks, welcome once again to Brad Stine Has Issues, and this should be an interesting interview. I hope. I can't imagine it won't be, and here's why. For those of you who've listened or watched me over the years, and if you haven't, you're going to hell. You need to know that. But the most important thing to remember is this. I try to bring on as many types of personalities and eclectic insights and wisdoms and thoughts as I can. That's what makes life interesting to me, is different people talking about different things from different perspectives. And the hope always is that you can agree to disagree agreeably or find some common ground. And that's what I certainly am going to try to do today. But keep in mind that this is very specific, because it was sort of an idea I've had for a long time. Many of you might have heard my interview with William Lane Craig, and that was one of my favorite interviews, only because I've respected him for so many years and have watched so much of his work. He's a double doctorate. I think he was voted one of the top 100 philosophers in the world, influentially, and one of the top 10 Christian philosophers in the world. So I got to speak to him. It was a privilege.
Oh my God, I forgot how long this part. I almost want to skip this part. I don't know
Yeah,
how you
I'm
feel.
just gonna at this point, I'm just gonna let you take the lead and go where you think it's worth going
I
on
don't
this
know.
thing.
He says, "Oh, I had this idea to interview atheists, but like this happened because I reached out to him. Okay, he did not reach out to me. as far as I know, he hasn't made an active attempt at it. So like I'll obviously he agreed to do it. He thought it was a good idea, but I do think it's interesting. The framing of this is, I've had this idea for a while, and I finally got to make this happen. He might talk about like me reaching out and stuff in that actually, but anyway, we should probably get to the meat and potatoes of it here. Here we go.
Objectively, Dan, how do you do, sir?
I'm great, Brad. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. Well, listen, before we get started,
this is there it is, folks. That's the money shot right there. This is not AI. This is a real conversation that happened between two titans of industry right here.
You guys look like you're praying.
I know. Yeah, I got a nice I know people are probably gonna say I look like it came from church. I literally was, getting dressed for work, but at the same time I was like, if I am gonna do this, I need to look nice. So it kind of worked out both ways. But yeah, let's keep it going.
I do want to ask you quickly just a little bit about yourself, just so people know what it is that you bring to the table.
Yes, that is the Windows XP wallpaper. Because I wasn't gonna put Zidanza. What should I put? I guess I could have put the Dan. I guess that's probably okay. But I love the Windows XP wallpaper. It's great.
Really,
I believe you have a podcast.
What's that?
I said, really's letting us have it tonight.
Yeah, I know.
And is it from an atheist perspective, or is it just sort of different philosophical dialogues about different ideas?
Yeah, so I've been volunteering with an organization called the Atheist Community of Austin for, I don't know, this part's boring. I just kind of intro myself a little bit. So we'll get to the first question.
And in your call-ins, do you have a
since I try to call in that it's
yeah, right. Well, and do you have any, not that I care, that it matters to this conversation, probably, I'm sure you're a smart guy, but do you have any degrees or anything maybe that you studied, or philosophical degrees or anything that drew you to this information? Or is it
I have a bachelor's in communication studies, but I do work a day job. Everything else I do on the side, podcast wise, it's just for fun, really. But yeah, that's the degree of qualification.
Well, nothing to be apologizing for, because I have a high school education. That's it. I'm an autodidact. So everything I've ever learned, studied, thought about was through the idea of contemplation, introspection, and reading. Just trying to figure the things out on my own terms. It's just the way my brain's wired. It's a double-edged sword. To be severely ADHD and all these other mental disorders that I suffer from also can make you interesting. I'm a professional comic.
Yeah, you see, he keeps going on and on about himself here for a minute, right? And it's like, he asked me, what are my qualifications? I give 10-second answer, 50-second answer. Then he talks about himself for like a minute. And Chad, this is how this whole conversation goes. This is a prelude. Okay. I wanted to show you that because it doesn't get better in terms of how that works.
I honestly found this hard to watch because everything there wasn't much maintained conversation, because every time he gets the mic, he just goes and goes and goes like this.
He goes and goes and goes. And it's funny because we've heard him describe himself this way, as an autodidact, and I think pronouncing it incorrectly on purpose as a joke. That's the other thing with Brad is, he kind of drops these jokes and I think he picked up on the fact that I wasn't laughing because I think he reiterated after our conversation that he was a comedian. And I didn't acknowledge that comment because I didn't want to tell him I didn't think his jokes were funny. But he definitely says things in a way that tries to be funny, and I didn't laugh. I don't think really a single time. I think I smiled and nodded at mostly what he said. So
I think I remember he identified himself as a comedian and an actor.
Yes, I think he's about to say he's an actor. In part
as well, an actor and everything. So
yeah,
there's an artistic bent to that. That's interesting to folks, by the way, but also some challenges with us. So, but anyway,
as someone who has ADHD myself, I concur. I probably wouldn't do all the things that I do without my various interests that come and go in different
kind of observation.
Okay, yeah,
here we go.
totally agree with you there.
And I think that is, it's kind of an interesting a kind of an interesting observation that those who aren't settled, that they're always searching because they get bored, but it makes us interesting. We're Renaissance people. We're the ones that sculpted and did science. We just wanted to keep going. We couldn't.
Yeah, we're Renaissance men. Me and Brad, dude.
Is a Renaissance man where you're bad at everything?
That's what I'm saying. It's like I like this is why it's hard, dude, because it's like I'm talking to the man. First of all, let me tell you this. Like this felt so fucking natural talking to Brad because I'm so used to hearing his voice now and what he sounds like in his cadence. Like I didn't skip a beat in my conversation with him in terms of that. Just because I know what it is, but it's like, yeah, he's going on and on about like, yeah, we're Renaissance, man. We do science, we do these things. It's just like, I guess, man. You know,
I legitimately wonder if he knows how to have a conversation. Because
I don't know.
It might be partly the ADD or something like that, but he just once he starts going, he just gets lost in his own thoughts. I have a tendency to do that too sometimes. If I think something's interesting, I'll just kind of speak in stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
So I can kind of understand it, but Brad, with all understanding, I've been there too sometimes. You got to get a grip on that if you want to do these interviews and have conversations, because it becomes hard to listen to.
I will say this as someone who does a show where I interview people like every week, right? Like you have to be good at that. And I get filling silence, right? Some people are awkward and they don't say much and you kind of have to fill in. There is that, but like that's not what was happening here. Like Brad would just go on and on about these topics where it's like, what am I supposed to say? Yeah, Brad, I think we are Renaissance men, you and I. I
like comment. Renaissance fair man.
Renaissance fair man. No.
Asher has I think puts it well. It's the ADHD. He's connecting dots constantly. His brain doesn't tell him to stop. That's the part I can connect with, because if I find, I'm generally a pretty quiet person, but if I find a topic interesting, I can just go and go and go. And it wasn't long after my childhood when I learned to rein that in.
Yeah.
I can still do it sometimes, but
but it was, again, it was a little surreal talking to him, but it's just like, this is, I kind of expected all of this, like this sort of stream of consciousness sort of talking and stuff where, I don't know, he kind of does his thing for a minute, but anyway, let's
stay still.
Going.
And I think that's important because clearly it's what has allowed humans to get this far is their search for meaning. And so here's what I wanted to preface this with, Dan. And so I'm going to just be perfectly frank, all the cards on the table with you straight up so that we're, on the same page. It's this. You're a guinea pig in this particular conversation. And what I mean by that is, and you contacted me because you saw the William Lane Craig conversation I had.
Right.
You said, man, I'll volunteer. I'd love to talk about this idea. And I appreciate it. It's good. I'm great.
I do like the way he says, you're a guinea pig. Like I'm just supposed to sit down and fucking take it. I'm just like, okay. I guess, man.
He just loves to he loves to say things that allude to, like, basically refer to himself as a scientist. Like he calls things in his book experiments a lot, and now the guinea pig thing.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just it's very funny.
For that, because I really am excited about this. I think there's something interesting can come from this. But here's what I want you to know up front is that I hope that I take a little bit different tact than is usually what is seen in a theist-atheist discussion. Most of the ones that I've seen, and I've seen hundreds of debates and dialogues, and atheists just making their claims and theists making their claims. I'm very interested in philosophy, very interested in theology, apologetics, and logic and I just love that stuff. It just interests me.
I'm starting to remember why I quit watching this.
Yeah, do you see how much he fucking talks in all of this? It's just this is another reason again why later on, and I'll skip ahead. Don't worry, we're not gonna watch this all the way through. Okay, I just want to get you a taste of like what's happening here. But like it's early in the morning. I'm dressed up, And at a certain point, I'm late for work. Like I'm actively late for work, and we're still talking. And I still continue the conversation, to be fair. But it's like I'm just hearing him talk about this, and he'll talk a lot about morality and like objective purpose and stuff. And it's over and over again with it. And it's just like I couldn't help but get frustrated with just this going on and on about this stuff. It's at this point, it's not an interview, right? It's so far it's like 85% Brad talking and like me talking for some of it. Which isn't good when you're trying to have like a conversation like this. I don't know. It's
we got Kip Davis too. Godless Engineer says, I like how Dan looks like he's calling in from 2001.
Yeah.
And then Kip Davis said, Jesus Christ, Stine blathers on more than I do.
Yeah. I probably was actively disassociating because I didn't know I don't know what to think of this, David. It was pretty weird, but I was just waiting for him to, I don't know, waiting for me to get something I could chew on, you know? But yeah, we'll take a little bit more of this.
Absorb those
Maybe
things.
this is
And
a
yes,
very clever strategy of like wearing you down until you're so
That's
bored
what I'm
that
saying.
you.
It was, if this was like a police interrogation, this was great actually, because he did
That's
wear
what I
me
was saying.
down.
That's what I was
little
thinking of.
bit.
It sounds like in a police interrogation where they just try to
What?
get you so restless that you blurt out the truth.
Yeah, I will say one thing. He, you know, you notice he says, "Oh, I want to try to do this differently from how other people do stuff." And he did actively ask me after our interview, like, "Hey, how do you think I did? Do you think I did? Did I give you something new?" And I told him honestly, like, no, I don't think he really told me anything. I was pretty straight with him on that. But yeah, I was already peeved because I had a lot of things to do for work that day too. I remember it was just like, God, this is just so frustrating. What a frustrating time I was having. But again, we're just at the beginning here.
Listen to many atheists, because I want to know, what are you thinking? Why do you think the way I find it fascinating.
Sure.
So that's, and obviously you do too, because you spent a lot of your life engaging in this apparently for no pay. So, you know, that means it's a labor of love.
Isn't that interesting? The way he said that, apparently for no pay. Like
I don't want to assume that he meant anything by that. I think that's just his. I think he just said that kind of off the cuff. I don't think he means any insinuation. But
I would think so, but the tone is just a little off. You know what I mean? Like almost like he genuinely doesn't believe me, which is just interesting. Like okay, Brad, you get paid for this shit apparently. Like I don't know, man. That's.
Maybe I'm experiencing that thing where you see an actual conversation, you want to give somebody more credit than you think they actually deserve if you stop and think about Brad. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Anyway, again, just point out we've played some videos since last pause. I have not actually talked yet or addressed anything. So.
And that's good. But here's what I'm getting at. And so I'm going to ask you to bear with me.
How many times
because I may not do this the way
yeah, here's what I'm getting at. Ask you to bear with me. It comes up quite a bit.
I hope it does work. It may not work right. It might kind of stutter and get the gears get clogged up, maybe. But I just want to try to see if I can approach this a little bit differently than usually is done. And you might get a sense of it based on what you saw me talking to William Lane.
All right, I'm now going to go ahead because I'm getting frustrated again. Just
yeah, I think we need to find some timestamps with some moments of confrontation in here, because this is.
Let's go forward.
By the way, this is why we're
moving in any of this.
This
my
is
mouth
why
is not moving in any of this. Do you see this?
This is why we preambled and talked about some of the big context, because you kind of have to. Because most of this is just nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like, and it's not a debate. I barely got to talk to the guy, let alone debate with him. But let's see if I can finally. Okay, I think
Where's
I'm speaking
Waldo
a little
says,
bit
I
here.
for one cannot bear with him.
Yeah. The conclusion to yes, God, no God. So let me start with that and give you the conclusion of life. Whatever have, and every other is. Spiritualism or whatever, you know, I mean, so I'm not just, this isn't necessarily Christian God, but just God in general or non-God. Okay.
You look like you got cornered by somebody as you're trying to leave church or something like that.
It's not a good look for me. I don't know. I probably should have had better face control here. I don't know what exactly I was thinking in this point, other than let's get to the point. That's probably
I don't even mean it as a comment on you. It's just he's talking like that person you don't want to sit to next to the bus, or the one person who just won't let you leave somewhere and keeps going and going and going.
Yeah. Yeah, it was uncomfortable. Okay, I think this is where he's finally getting to his question
The
here.
single most important question, because however you answer that question will affect every other answer you'll give for every other question you will ever have. And I'm talking about the most important questions in life. What is the meaning of life? Why are we here? What are we up to? The only answer I can find is in the conclusion to yes, God, no, God. So let me start with that and give you the respect. Do you agree with that premise that the most important question in human history to really find the answers to what we're all searching for
Flubber says,
is
question one,
God.
do you agree?
It's comical. Like it's
You know, one thing I've realized that I adore about this almost more than anything else,
yeah.
as long-winded as he is, he carries on about this thing about believing in God being the most important answer.
Yeah.
And just over mansplains it to you endlessly.
Yeah.
As if this is something every atheist hasn't heard from an apologist a billion times over and over and over again. Like he so thinks he's explaining something new to you. He is out of his depth.
Dude, this is what's super annoying. Yeah, you're so right. Because again, he starts off this right with this premise, I'm gonna try something new. And like the very first question is this. It's like, what are we doing? What's the plan? I don't know. I like a part of me just genuinely felt like he wasn't prepared for some of this, right? Because it's like, I don't know. Yeah.
Asher says Dan looks ready to kick down a door. Look
I
at your face
was
right
ready to do something because like I got ADHD too, dude, and like you're driving me crazy here in this conversation, you know? I think
now. Your
anybody
rambling
would.
thoughts aren't as satisfying to me as they are to you. Both of us
Right.
have ADHD.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay, yeah, let's see how I answer this here. Well, great question to start with. Before I answer that, I want to respond to your preamble very briefly because I thought that was really great. I really appreciate you trying to bring a dialogue to me. I'm obviously not your typical guest on here. And I expect to treat you the same way I treat every single person that calls into my shows with the respect that you deserve. So I absolutely can take any question you want to throw at me. Even the hard ones, go ahead. I'm an open book on that. So as far as, is it the most important question? I would say for me, it definitely was. I told you I grew up as a Christian. I'm from Waco, Texas. Okay. So a lot of things about Waco, right?
I've been there.
Not the best reputation, right? But it's where I'm from.
Yeah.
And
I just want to add some context to this. I think this was said in his pre-thing, his 45-minute pre-thing when he's talking to his son.
Yeah.
He talked about how you said that you used to be a believer. And he said that he's not sure whether you can ever find salvation again because you were a believer and left.
Right.
And so now whether your soul's just doomed forever.
Right. We talked about that a little bit in the second interview. We didn't talk about it in this one. But I did because Brad can be kind of blunt and I kind of wanted to hear him say, yeah, I'm going to go to hell. Like I honestly just wanted to hear him say it because I would genuinely respect him more for that if he was honest about it, so I'll give credit where credit is due, I guess. But so what's about to happen to here is kind of a funny interaction. I'll let it play out here. A lot of Christians
is Waco where Buddy Holly's from?
Is he from actually I don't know if that's true. Okay. I think when most people when they think of Waco they think of Koresh, right?
Right.
That's why I make the joke there,
Gotcha,
right? Because that's what most people. Yes, it's like he didn't understand why I was bringing up Waco in the context of like
he religion. Must be the one person in the world who doesn't go straight to David Koresh and like Waco.
I've been telling people I'm from Waco my whole life, and like 80% of the time, 90% of the time, it's either Koresh or like when they had the house buying shows. Okay, that was a big deal. I've never met anyone that was like, oh yeah, isn't that where Buddy Holly is from? I don't know. It's just really funny. It's
by the way, I just looked it up. He's not even correct about that. Buddy Holly is from Lubbock, Texas.
Okay, well there you go. But like, yeah, it's like but he was around during that time. I wasn't even born yet when the shit happened in Waco. You know, like I figured he would
Asher
make
said
that
he's prime
connection.
age to know about it. Like when
Yeah,
I think I was a senior in high school when that all happened. Like that's
yeah.
or somewhere around there, and that's just when you say the word Waco, David Koresh, that's what instantly
Right.
comes to my mind. It's
But
so
like he didn't make that. I just thought that honestly threw me off so hard because I've never met anybody that would not get that, honestly. So that
he
was
says, "Who needs geography when you have Christ?"
yeah, I guess there's that. Yeah, talking about Buddy Holly. I don't know, very, very funny. Think of, but you know, so I grew up there, and I grew up as a Christian, and went to church as a believer. Been both to the Baptist and Methodist church, and it was because I took this question so seriously that I did the investigation that I did. Because when I was getting around to my college age, I kind of realized I don't know if the reasons I believed were as good as I thought that they were. So I really started to test that and started to look at folks. And I did look at folks like William Lane Craig. I looked at all sorts of apologists and did the reading for myself. And I also looked at folks from other opposing points of view. And that's when I sort of shifted in my own ideas about what I think about God. So for me, it was definitely a supremely important question, because you're right. Your belief in God, particularly Christian God, does inform your sense of ethics, right? It does inform your sense of right and wrong. And so on that note, it was extremely important. How do I know what I'm doing is right? How do I know if I'm going to be, you know, making it to the other side or not? Right? That's important, right? So yeah, it was definitely supremely important for me. I don't know if I could say it's absolutely important for everybody in all of human history, but it definitely was important for me.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, obviously that's what dialogue is people simply say yes, no, or whatever. But I think this is
That was a
maybe a
great follow-up.
foreshadowing.
That's what dialogue is. It's yes, no, or whatever. Now,
It sounds like he simply didn't know what to do with that question. That was
well, here's why. Here's why, and I think it's gonna happen right now. He doesn't like this answer. He doesn't like the answer that I gave, which is that yeah, it was important to me, but it may not be absolutely important to everybody. And he's going to argue with me about this point, that it's not important to everybody. So already, like, we're going like off the rails on this one. By the way, we got a super chat from the Time Jumper who gave $6.66. I've seen drill sergeants with less frustration in their expressions. Dan, you miraculous patience might just be proof of God. Let me tell you, again, doing call-in shows and talking to people, that has definitely helped. All right, but I'm not kidding when I say Brad was the biggest test of my patience I've ever had in doing this. Seriously, it gets worse from here. I'll tell you that much. Anyway.
I just love that his first question, he is like so lost in his own perspective and doesn't even know how to begin getting his. So his first question is literally, I have this one thing that informs how I view the world. So basically I come to this one supernatural conclusion, and to me, everything's pivotal on that. Therefore, don't you think this question is just the most important one to everybody? Like,
Yeah.
everybody who comes up with supernatural belief and is going to think that that's the center of everything. Basically, I like Star Wars and trains. Doesn't everybody like Star Wars and trains? That's kind of what he's coming at you with.
And he does this for several other things too. Like he doesn't like that I use Yahweh at one point to talk about, because I'm like I'm just using it as like a purely like analytical term, just so I'm clear, because not everybody agrees on God about this. And I don't know, there's like, he really just doesn't like my answers to things. And yeah, he just pushes back on it all the time in this conversation.
Of what I'm talking about and the way I want to engage this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So, and here's what I mean by that, Dan. If Jesus Christ is who he said he was, if he was the dimensionalized transcendent,
Mm-hmm.
the
like
only one in
the dimensionalized transcendent, that goes kind of hard, like
they said in the Bible.
like they said in the Bible, right? That sounds like an awesome metal cover album, I think. But anyway,
history, by the way, there's a lot of religions, lots of leaders or folks who claim to be God. Nobody had the influence Nobody is more famous. Nobody is more influential, I don't think, than any other human that's ever existed than Jesus. He is unbelievable. Matter of fact, he's so unbelievable that many other religions try to claim him. The Buddhists, like, well, he was just a Buddhist. He was a great Buddhist. He was a prophet, the Muslims say. So everybody wants a piece of Jesus because everybody sees him as something unique in human history that is unlike anybody else that's before or since. So what I've realized, Dan, is that if that's true, not if I believe it's true, and this is a tricky one, because clearly if you believe God doesn't exist, and I believe he does.
Still going through this question. I will say I didn't, I didn't push back on this, but like, yeah, obviously other religions co-opt Jesus because he's popular and they want to have a take on him. It doesn't mean that they particularly care about Jesus. I don't think Buddhists really care about Jesus too much.
Yeah, if one thing becomes popular and it insinuates itself all over the world, other people are going to allude to it. Congratulations, you came to an understanding of literary illusion.
Yeah, right? I mean, Jesus talks about Moses and talks about Ezekiel and the prophets, right? And so does Islam. I don't know if really the Buddhists talk about it as much, probably not as much as Jesus, but it's like, yeah, I mean, Jesus was quoting other people too, you know.
We skipped it. We skipped it in your preamble, or we skipped it, but in his preamble, he mentioned too more Christians being persecuted for their faith than anybody else.
Yes,
and that's the same thing, because you went and insinuated yourself all over the world, and so you're going to end up in people's space and getting into conflicts with people.
This is one thing I didn't argue with him more about, because he'll go into this Christian persecution thing like really hardcore. Like he really thinks Christians have it worse than everybody. So maybe we'll get to that, but I'll see if I can
guess who's reporting on the who's reporting on the persecution. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. No, it's fine. It's just like we pause in the middle of these fucking questions that go on forever, and it's like I already lose track of what he's asking me next.
We're kind of at an impasse, because it's kind of like, well, if there's not absolute formulaic data similar to a mathematical data, 2 + 2 is 4, that we can all sort of objectively look at and say, I don't have to speak your language to understand math. I don't need to speak Spanish, because the numbers are abstract and exist for all folks, irrespective of your particular language nomenclature. Then it's kind of a personal perspective, right? It's a subjective belief system, but I'm not going to do it that way. And that's what was my forewarning. I'm going to presume Jesus is exactly who he said he was, because that's who I believe. I've given my life to that idea. So I'm going to treat him that way.
He's so basic in so many words.
Where's the question, Zon? Have you found the question yet? Where's the question in this? I'm going to believe that Jesus is who he says he is. Okay. That's cool. Like, it's so difficult to talk to him, man. Oh, so bad. All right, let's see if we can at least finish this freaking question. Then we can probably skip ahead a little bit.
And I'm going to presume that whether you believe it or not, it's true. That's the ultimate way we can even have conversations, is if there is a ultimate immutable truth that transcends our subjective opinions. So
can I ask you this though, because I just think, like, so I've talked to like flat earthers, for example, right? And obviously you and I both believe the earth is round. Actually, you know what? I shouldn't make that assumption. Do you believe the earth is round? Yeah, you're shaking.
I thought it was a pyramid, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. So, you know, we're both on the same page there, right? I believe that's a fact, you know, but that doesn't, it's also my belief that the earth is round as well. You know, like, just because it is a fact doesn't mean I can't have a belief in something, right? So I just want to clarify that there, because I think, like, it could be objectively true that God is real, and I could still lack a belief, and those two things aren't necessarily incompatible. We're on the same page there, right?
Yes, exactly. Well, and so I think that maybe that would be a great way to examine as we go forward a bit here, Dan, is that, okay, so let me ask you this. Do you believe it's possible for me to prove God exists?
Interesting. Yahweh specifically, that would be really difficult, I think. I think
what do you mean? Why did you differentiate, or why did you focus?
Well, here's why I differentiate. Some people that call into my show in particular, you know, they say they believe in God, but God doesn't necessarily mean Yahweh of the.
You're
Bible
talking about
fame,
the
right?
Hebrew or Judeo-Christian God,
Right. That's sort of how I make that distinction, because God can be kind of a nebulous term. Sometimes people use God to mean different things, right? So obviously we're talking about Judeo-Christianity, right? We're talking about that God.
Okay.
But like, there's some people that say, well, God is nature, right? And it's like, well, I believe in that nature exists. So by that definition, I guess I mean God exists, but like, that's probably not what you mean. You probably mean this specific God of the Bible who said these things and did all these actions and stuff, right? So that'd be very interesting if you could prove that. I would be very. He, he like you could see like he was taken aback by me using the term Yahweh a little bit there. But I thought he was a guy that watched a lot of debates. I thought, because I'm definitely not the first person to like do that, right? So I don't know.
It sounds like it sounds like there's a lot of ways to look at this, but it sounds like it's as simple as he's thrown for a loop by you not using Christianese. That's
a little bit. I think that's part of it. Yeah. Okay. I know I said we'd skip ahead. I kind of want to see what this, because I think this is where we first get into some conflict. Very curious to see that.
So I think that is a good, and that's what I'm glad about this conversation, because it's good. I hope to have many more atheists, and it's helping me hone how to best broach this, because I don't want to waste your time or mine, but I do want to see honestly if there's
that's pretty fucking rich. I gotta say. Yeah. like seriously, like let's do. So we could pull up the goddamn transcript of this YouTube video. Like, let's do a word count. Like, what's the difference here? Man, you were red in the face there. That's hilarious.
Yeah, partly I'm still not feeling good. So when I got laughing, got me coughing. But that's
true. But
he go back and listen to this, Brad, and just think of the fact that you just told someone you don't want to waste their time.
Yeah, I know. It's like if you're serious, Brad, you would have had these questions like written out ahead of time. So I think you had some ideas in your head, and that's fine, I guess. But
edit yourself just a little bit and try to get to the point.
Yeah.
The truth that we can land on in the end of all this. And that may not be possible. Obviously, this debate has gone on from human history, but I'm shooting for it. Let's shoot for this amazing conclusion, perhaps.
Yeah. I would absolutely, and I say this all the time, I would love to be convinced that God is real. And in some ways, and you do mention that Christians are persecuted, worldwide. And I would say
they're not just persecuted, they're the #1 religious persecuted group on earth. That is data facts.
Well, that's interesting. I do think data facts. That's data facts. Data facts, the #1 religiously persecuted group on earth. Did you know that, Zod?
Yeah.
Data facts. I don't know.
Anytime two religions come together because they both believe things you can't prove very strongly, they're going to end up in conflict. You guys spread all over the place, and so now you're in the most conflict with people.
Yeah.
About what it is. Also, you guys are the ones reporting all this, so wow, you guys call yourself most persecuted.
I know. Yeah, I guess we skipped over, but he did go on a whole thing about Christians being persecuted and stuff. So that was a thing that happened. That in the United States, though, it is much easier to be a Christian than it is to be an atheist, for example. As someone who's lived both sides of that coin, I would say it's been tremendously harder for me as an atheist than it ever was when I was a Christian.
How many people are cutting atheists' heads off in the United States, like that just happened 2 weeks ago in the Congo? How many people are
Did you catch that? How many people are cutting atheists' heads off in the United States like 2 weeks ago? What happened in the Congo? And it's like, well, are we talking about the United States or the Congo? Because Brad just, I guess, doesn't ever hear about or understand that like atheists absolutely like do get killed as well. Like, it doesn't get reported on as much, but yeah, a lot of these Christian deaths don't get reported on as much because I don't know, there's not as much interest, I guess. But
basically, that isn't happening here yet.
Yeah,
he's comparing the U.S. to a more turbulent part of the world where that kind of stuff happens. Does Brad think that if you're an atheist in a Muslim country, that's going to go well for you because you're not a Christian.
Right. Well, let's see what he says.
Are burning them inside of their atheist buildings while they're alive. How many people are stealing atheist daughters and forcing them into marriage? It's not happening. So no.
You mentioned in the United States specifically. I as I qualified, right? I don't doubt, and I know for a fact that Christians are persecuted in other nations, but I'm specifically talking about as an American in my experience.
Right.
Living as an atheist, definitely much harder than as a Christian.
Well, yeah. I guess that would be subjective as well, because I could say to you, well, how about the fact that the founding fathers, let's say, if we're going to talk about America, and I agree, by the way, I always differentiate American Christianity from everybody else because I think American Christians are the weakest.
That's a great line to pause that on. But notice how he immediately fucking switches course on this, saying, "Oh, he actually agrees with me," even though that's like the thing I literally said.
I don't think it's intentional, but it has a feel to it when he talks about how Christians aren't cutting off atheists' head. Then he says, "We in America here are weak as Christians."
Right?
Like we don't have what it takes. I don't think that's what he means, but you always feel this certain amount of envy when they talk about all the stuff that happens to people in other countries and the fact that they don't do that to atheists here.
What do you mean? What are you talking about? Like, wait, what? Wait, I don't understand your point. Actually, maybe I misunderstood.
When Christians say those Muslims kill all the atheists over there or do all this stuff, like they behead the people who disrespect their religion. That doesn't happen over here. Mm-hmm. It almost seems to sound like there's a little bit of like pent up envy where they wish that they had the ability to do.
Oh, you mean like that they wish that I mean, I don't know about that. Maybe, yeah. There's definitely some, okay, yeah. There's definitely people in office right now that are probably envious of that and are probably trying to make that happen. I don't know if that's how Brad feels.
I don't know if it exactly is, but yeah. there's a weird feel to how they make these comparisons, especially if they have a drive toward becoming more theocratic.
Yeah. But I just want to point out again, like I made my point, I think, pretty clear, right? I'm not talking about people in other countries. I'm talking about my subjective experience as an American, right? Which I think is true. I think every data point you can point to it, atheists versus Christians in America. Yeah, atheists have it harder. And like, as soon as I pushed back on him on that and reiterated that, he almost couldn't refute it. And now he's kind of changing course and changing his argument a little bit, talking about Christians being weak and stuff. It's very, I want to say subtle. It's not really subtle what he's doing, but he's definitely changing his tune a little bit.
Your point was just that Christians aren't persecuted here. It was as simple as that. And he started turning into all these other comparisons.
Right. Which I'm not arguing against. Right. Like, but again, you're right. It's like he hasn't talked to people. He hasn't talked to atheist perspective on this. He really does expect me to know this Christianese and counter it. Right.
Because we haven't been persecuted like the rest. Where churches are growing worldwide, Christians are in the places they're most persecuted. Totally a dichotomy, totally counterintuitive to what one would think one would do when they said deny or die. Well, okay, never mind. But they don't. This is something that I don't see atheists having any equivalency to, and that is having something beyond.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you, Brad. Atheists are killed in other nations. There are laws against atheists, just existing as people. That it's not an exclusively Christian phenomenon.
True.
To be killed for their beliefs. And I'm not making a comparison between the two in the sense of, let's talk about who's getting persecuted more than the other. I'm not really interested in that conversation.
Yeah.
But I am absolutely willing to go with the facts on the matter. And the facts are that both Christians and atheists are persecuted for their beliefs or lack of beliefs. Right. That's definitely a thing that happens.
I don't have a dog in that hunt. I just wanted to make sure.
But again, like 10 seconds ago, he just said it didn't happen. He doesn't know of it. That's what he said. I don't know of this being a thing. And now he's like, oh yeah, that is a thing. It's like, what is with this?
When he got most fired up and he's like, well, you've never seen one get their head cut off or get put in or burned in this bill. And he got pretty amped up about that. And now he's like, well, I don't have a dog in that fight. Like,
Yeah, it's like I don't know. It's very silly.
He picks
that
a lane in
people
this about as well
understood.
as he does in his book.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry, go ahead.
We should take a break in a bit so we can open up this Chick Track wallet, I think. But I don't know how you're feeling about it. Do you want to see where this keeps going, or we can move ahead to a different part of the conversation? I feel like we're finally getting some traction now in the conversation.
Yeah, I'd say let's skip ahead a little bit.
You want to skip ahead a bit? Okay.
I'll let you use your judgment. You're more familiar with all this.
Well, how about let's do a quick break for the Chick Track wallet, because this is a live unboxing here.
Here, do you want to take the screen down?
Oh yeah, let's do that. Let's do that real
see
quick.
it better?
Oh yeah, good call. I accidentally canceled out on the whole screen share. That's fine. I'll put it back up. Have not opened this yet. This has been sitting on my kitchen counter for like a week. I'm very excited about this. This is really this happened because of viewers like you who donated and give super chats so we can buy dumb things on the channel. So thank you to those who donate. Everybody. Oh man, let's see what I got here. I won't show that. That has my address, I think. Check Publications, PO Box 3500, Ontario, Canada. Wow, all the way from Canada. Crazy stuff. I got an order form, I guess, for some more Chick Track stuff and Chick Publications. All right, here it is. Chick Tracks. Get read. www.chick.com. We got the Track wallet. It is a thing with plastic sleeves. It is, I'll be honest, it's not that impressive. There is something else in this envelope. Let's see what we got here. Oh my God, they gave me Chick Tracks. They gave me Chick Tracks for the Chick Track wallet. We got Here Kitty Kitty. Why no revival? That's a green color. You can't see because of the thing. And good news, the Gospel of John and Romans, answers for life. Oh boy. Oh, it's literally the Gospels. Like, it's not even a commentary. It's just the Bible. Like,
oh wow,
parts of the Bible. Okay.
So if you think the Word of God is really that powerful, that's just all you would really need to publish.
Yeah,
you wouldn't need to make these silly comics.
Copyright 2012 on this bad boy.
Oh, that's when the Bible was written.
That's when the Bible was written. Yeah, that's when the Gospel of John and Romans. I'm a little disappointed. It's just a little plastic thing. It's not that impressive looking. I'll be honest.
That's the chintziest thing I've ever seen. I'm glad they sent you Tracks, because spending what, $5 for that would be a downer.
We spent $4.25 plus $5.60 for shipping. So it's an investment, but there it is. I got my Chick Tracks and I got my gospel news right there in my Chick Track wallet, baby.
Wallet is a very generous word for that. I'd call that a sleeve.
Yeah,
that's a plastic sleeve is basically what that is.
There are better card protector carriers for my Pokemon cards right now than for whatever this is. I don't know.
Who's that Chick Track?
Yeah, I would start just chucking it at people. This is look, and Zod, look at. No way. Wait, hold on. Zod, this doesn't even fit right in here. Look at this. Look, it goes over the middle.
So is it just the gospel one, or
the gospel one sticks out like a sore fucking thumb? What the fuck?
Don't swear around the Chick Tracks.
Oh, sorry, Chick Track. No, this sucks. This isn't even a good Chick Track.
So it holds the Chick Tracks, but not the gospel one?
It holds the Chick Tracks just fine. Here's like the end of the sleeve. So it's like it's right there. But look how far this thing sticks out. You see that? Yeah. I don't know if you can see the reflection of the plastic on camera. It sticks out way too far. And so
in all fairness, they didn't call it a Gospel of John and Romans holder. They called it a Chick Track wallet. So
Dog, just make one of John and one of Romans. Why you gotta make a book that's too big?
I absolutely love how upset you are about this.
It's so stupid.
You're totally like a kid who didn't get what he wanted for Christmas.
It was like you had one job. It was to carry the chick tracks well, and it doesn't fucking do it. Oh my god, I'm gonna stick some cool shit in here instead. Like, let's put like a box of cigarettes or something in here. I don't know. Man. Well, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with this now. I guess I'll put it in my display case. So I can proudly show it off. God. All right. Well, that's the unboxing video, guys. I hope you've enjoyed.
Enjoy your trading card sleeve.
The chick track trading card sleeves. That was awesome. We need to do more unboxing shit, you know?
Yep.
And it's great because you've had all the unboxing experiences so far on this channel.
Yeah, that's true.
So that was my first one. Let's skip ahead here.
All right, you mind if I step up for a minute while you're skipping?
Yeah, of course.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, so I just realized I'm not sharing the screen anymore. Let me share that screen again. He gets real nasty at this part right here. I think we're at the right part here, where he thinks I'm because I'm like being very particular with my words. He thinks I'm not answering the questions. It's one of those classic, oh, yes or no, you know, is it this or this? And you know, some of other people I've hosted with the ACA kind of do this sometimes, and I think it is kind of an annoying tactic to use. I'm gonna be honest. It's an annoying thing to do. Sometimes it's worth it. Sometimes it needs to happen. Sometimes I don't think so. I think this is one of those cases where it shouldn't have happened. Steve Weber saying, I have to admit, I did not predict what they meant by a chick track. Well, I'll be honest, I didn't know either. I thought it was like a thing you could share, like a portable thing you can share with other people, which, like, I guess this is a big ass wallet though. Like, if it was the actual, I expected it to be closer to the size of like the chick tracks, which are noticeably smaller. I think that would have worked, but this book is so big. And all these other ones are so big. It's like, damn, guys, what the hell? Make it a Ridge wallet or something. But anyway, yeah. So, you know, going back to Brad here, and I you know, if we get to if you post the second interview, that'll be great. But like, you can see how like it can get tedious even just talking to him. I'm trying to play some of the clips of the highlights here, of just the way that he talks to me, because there's a lot of these moments where he really thinks he's making a great point, and I think in his head he really thinks he is, and I just kind of have to repeat myself as to why that's not the case. But I mean,
then you'd be kidding yourself. You'd be lying to yourself.
Let's see.
Obligation to be kind to me. None. Not again. This, and I hope it would work well. So I'm kind of throwing this out again. This isn't me being mean to Dan. I'm taking this very seriously, because if I'm right, then there is no more, you're going to hell. If I'm right, you're going to hell. So I have to do this. You have no obligation to be kind to me. None, not based on atheism. You can choose to, but you have no obligation. I am obligated. So that's why I take this very seriously, because I think,
again, I think, Brad, you would do yourself well to actually ask atheists how they.
Sorry, we could eternally stop this every time but I'm just blown away. I'm obligated to be kind to you because basically, if I'm not, something horrible might happen to you.
Yeah.
You're not obligated to me because, according to atheism, nothing better or worse happens to me based on how you behave, whether you're kind or mean. Is that what he's essentially saying?
Kind of. I think so. Like, his whole point is, I don't have an objective moral compass, right? I just do things because I feel like doing them. So I don't have an obligation. But I guess as a Christian, he has an obligation, I guess, because Jesus tells him to, or the Bible tells him to. Which
it sounds like specifically what he was saying here is that you'll go to hell, and so I'm obligated to do something about it.
Right. Now that is interesting, right? Because
Things can happen better or worse to him. So if he has an obligation to stop you from suffering in hell, might you not have an obligation out of kindness to help other people avoid suffering or to make their lives better? Philosophically, it's identical. It's just in different scenarios. One of them is just really extreme.
I got to this point because this is I think it's either the first or second time I actually get upset, and I think you can tell. So I'm gonna go back just a second so you can see.
I am obligated, so that's why I take this very seriously, because I think
again, I think Brad, you would do yourself well to actually ask atheists how they feel about that. Because
about what?
About morality. What if I feel like I do have an obligation, right? I mean,
then you'd be kidding yourself. You'd be lying to yourself.
Man, I don't.
What are you having a conversation about?
Yeah, it's just an immediate fucking dismissal. But it's like, Brad, the whole point of interviewing people is to get their perspectives. You don't have to agree with them, but like, he's not even asking my perspective. Like, he's assuming, oh, you don't have obligations. You don't have obligations. But what if I feel like I do, though? Like
earlier, he's like, this whole thing is about a dialogue. We all have different perspectives and we want to understand each other. Then you explain your perspective. Well, you're lying to yourself.
Yeah.
So what are you here to learn from this? This ties into what I said before. He thinks it's very plain that he fully understands atheists and they're just completely wrong and he's completely right. And so he's just here to instruct. And that's what he's demonstrating here. He has nothing to learn from you if he just knows that you're lying to yourself, anything you're going to say. So
yeah. That there is, and that's another reason, again, compiling to the reasons of why I'm getting frustrated by this conversation, because now he's trying to make me look foolish at this point, right? I'm just like, I guess I'm just a fucking dumbass. I'm fooling myself, you know?
David's been tracking his questions. Question 3, I'm right that you're a fool. Do you agree?
Is it, man, that's cracking me up, I gotta say. Yeah, that's another thing too, Ben. Ben Way puts a good point. Another thing to this pile is he does genuinely think he has definitely every single thing he has. You can tell he wants to be really scholarly about this. And it's like, dude, just cut the fucking pretense. Like, we can talk like two normal human beings about it, but it doesn't ever feel like it's at that point. So anyway, I'll keep playing. That class of ethics is deontological ethics, right? This is what Immanuel Kant and other people were talking about. But I don't personally qualify myself in that kind of ethics, but there are definitely atheists that do, and many great thinkers through history that have thought that. So you're painting a really broad brush of atheists, and I think that if you want to have dialogue with folks like myself, I think it'd behoove you to ask, oh, what do you think about ethics, rather than, oh, well, you don't have an obligation to be nice, and so nothing you do really matters. Hey, I think the things I do matter. I think that my life does have purpose. Maybe it's not a transcendent purpose, right? But atheists might be more diverse in their thinking than you might give them credit for.
Okay, I'll try that. Do you have an obligation to be good to me?
That's an interesting one, and it's separate from the God question, right? In some ways. So I think
what you were asking me. You were saying that I can't just assume that atheists have these don't have these obligations, and so I'm retreating. I'm coming back and giving it from an angle that you demanded, and now suddenly that's not good enough. This is my point.
Wait, you're laughing. I want you to hear this.
And so I'm retreating. I'm coming back and giving it from an angle that you demanded, and now suddenly that's not good enough. This is my point. This proves God.
Welcome, Brad. It's not good enough. What? This is all I said. Yeah, that's an interesting question, and it is separate from the God question. That's all I said. I didn't say it wasn't good enough. I didn't even get to fucking speak. This man talks for like 90% of the fucking time. And the minute I pop off one sentence, he's like, oh, this isn't good enough. Like, what? Come on, man. Like,
I love how he said I retreated and then asked this the way you demanded.
Yeah.
The demand you made was that he dialogues with you instead of just preaching at you and telling you that you're lying to yourself.
Yeah.
All you expected of him was to actually have a back and forth, and he treats it like you're making some big demand of him.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Because yeah, he hasn't been dialoguing with me up to this point. I know we're skipping some stuff, but it's like he hasn't. I trust me, he has not. Okay, it's mostly been him talking and him giving his viewpoints and him not really giving a fuck about what I have to say, which is like, what is, again, as you point out, what is the point of me being there if you're not even gonna? Because like as a Christian, you don't have to give a fuck about what other people think, and I think that's pretty hardwired into him at this point. But anyway,
This is
let's
my proof.
Fine. If you're going to
Yeah.
demand that I ask you what you think instead of just
Yeah.
telling you you're a liar, then I guess we can do that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, dude, it was so crazy.
Good enough. This is my point. This proves God.
Welcome, Brad.
This
Let's
is my
slow
proof.
our roll here. I never said it wasn't good enough. I just mentioned I was qualifying my statement that it's different from the gut question, but I'm happy to answer it for you.
Go ahead.
Man,
Go ahead.
let's slow it down, bud. I mean, hey, I'm here for you. Yeah, I personally think that the reason why I want to be good to other people is a combination of things. I think it is partly because I want to be, but it's partly because it makes sense to be. I think good ethics come from good reason, because I have the ability to realize, hey, other people have needs and wants and desires that are broadly similar to me. They're not always similar. There's different things that everybody wants, but on the big stuff, food, water, sleep, we kind of all need that. And so I think I can compose myself and have others compose themselves in a way which makes sense for us to work together, and to live in a way that minimizes harm and promotes human flourishing. And I don't necessarily need a God belief to do that. Do I have a duty to you in a cosmic sense? No, but in a very real human sense, I do. In order to be a good person, I would say, yeah.
Okay, unfortunately, atheism cannot justify good, because there is no good in atheism, because it's an abstract
Why do you
concept.
say that?
Because it doesn't exist unless there's a transcendent being that says, here's what good means. So, but instead of you're teaching me how to interact with you. So let me try it this way to see if it helps. Yeah. Define good.
You're teaching me. He's so petty.
I'm teaching Brad how to have a basic conversation with people about, like,
I mean, the funny thing is, the fact is he's right, but he's saying it in a petulant way, like you're wronging him in some way. Like, yeah, you literally had to tell him to ask you a question and be willing to hear what you said, and he put out like that. Now he's being sarcastic about it.
No,
okay.
No, you bring up a good point, because like I am literally asking him to ask me a question, because I want him to justify my reason for being here. Because if it's just going to be the Brad Stine show where we hear about Brad Stine's opinion while Dan listens to it, I gotta go. I'm leaving. I got things to do. But like, now he's going to ask me about defining good and stuff. I don't know how much longer you want to keep talking about this right now, Zod, because we're getting close to the end of our normal broadcast time, but we can keep watching this a little bit, because it's going to get, there's a little bit more to this part of the conversation. So what do you think?
There are a couple ways we could approach this. We can't really go too much longer, but we could just hit a couple highlights real quick if you think that we could sum up really fast. Otherwise, if you wanted to make this a part 2, we could revisit this next week and just let this breathe a little bit more.
We can let it breathe a little bit more, I think, because like maybe I understand it can be overwhelming listening to Brad. Maybe we like talk about other parts of it next week or something if people want to hear more of it. But how about we skip to the end of this conversation, because I do think like I'm talking about like the closing statements from Brad. So I think that might be a good way to end things. What do you think?
Well, do you think it's good to end here with that, or do you think that's going to be good to have next time if we're going to do a part 2?
I kind of want to talk about it. I'm not going to lie. I think I want to at least show it off. Just
okay. If we can do it in a couple minutes, go ahead.
No, yeah, it's really quick here. Let's see. Catch me swinging. You know what I mean? So there's one version of this that where you turn me into a Christian, and then you get a whole. You make a whole thing about that.
The only reason I would want you to be a Christian is because it's true.
I appreciate that.
That's it.
And I would say the same for you as well. I try to live my life in wanting to believe as many true things as possible.
Yeah, I do. Okay, well, listen, I'm going to have.
Yeah.
By the way,
I do gotta get going. I'm sorry, but yeah.
Oh, my producer was I'll have him connect. We'll do this. maybe this week, maybe next week if you're around. Let's do it again. And I'll even try to do it later so you don't have to be on a time
That'd be
crunch.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Because I'm late for work right now. But you know what? It was worth it. I had a great time with you. So I'm looking forward to doing it again, Brad.
You represented atheists well, and I appreciate it, and I hope maybe we can become friends, or at least friendly, and see if we can continue to do some good work, at least put this out and see if it interests and maybe helps people down the road.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thanks. I look forward to it. Right. Yeah, I'll look forward. You have my email, so that's the best way to get me.
It'll be within the next week.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
Talk to you later. That was it. And actually, I think, wait a minute. That wasn't even what I was thinking of. Oh my God. I think he put in the part of the conversation where the show was actually over, and that was us talking afterwards. Wait, I'm realizing this in real time, because that was not what I thought I was going to show you. I think he put in the part where it was supposed to be unrecorded into the show because they don't care about the editing on this. I think that's what happened. Wow. Okay. Because what I wanted to show you was him having his little sign off saying, if go woke if you're broke or whatever, or go broke if you're woke. It was some fucking woke joke. But anyway, yeah, he does say he wants to be friends with me after all that, which is, it's interesting. I didn't know how to take that. I did think it was worth it to talk to him. I did have a really shitty start to my day because of it, because at this point I'm 30 minutes late to getting stuff started with work. But I guess maybe we could put that as an end cap to this, Zod, because it's just a very strange interaction overall and very frustrating. And there's more I want to show you, but hey, that's fine. We went through a lot today, so
I think doing more next week. And next week we kind of set a lot of context to this and talked before it started, because it is very long-winded.
Yeah.
But I think next week we'll just hit the ground running. Within 5 to 10 minutes after we start the show, we'll get right into the actual thing and just run through the rest of it. If we have more time, we can always do a love dare or something like that. So
yeah. I do think it's interesting that he uses the language that I represented atheists well. Can you imagine saying that? Like, imagine if I got a gay friend on the show and I was like, wow, you really represented the gays well. It's just a very strange sort of take on that, I guess.
Well, I think considering you're there as an atheist to share your perspective, I think it was a fair thing to say. Like,
I guess so. I would never tell a Christian guest on my show, you represented the Christians well. It's a little demeaning,
yeah,
I feel like.
Yeah.
But yeah, a little infantilizing.
That's hard, because you want to take that as just kindness and just accept it and be gracious about it. But he's so all over the place. Like, yeah, we're here to have a dialogue. Oh, well, you're just a liar. You're lying to yourself if you believe that. Like, he just is so all over the map, from just brazenly insulting you to then telling you, hey, let's just be friends. It's just legitimately hard to know how to take it. Like, I would really like if someone said something like that. Yeah, I mean, you see this, some kind of friendship or buddy thing coming out of this. You want to reciprocate that. But when it's following this just wildly erratic series of insults and compliments, like, what do you even do with it? It's weird.
Yeah. It was weird.
Harrison, you're very articulate for an idiot.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. That is what it felt like. And I don't need Brad's fucking approval for, anything I fucking do. It's just like, you see what I mean? Where it's like, okay, he's being personable, but it is that kind of like, oh, you're one of the good ones. Yeah. You know what I mean? It feels like that.
I think this gets to the heart of what I was trying to say, because it's not just the variation between being nice and being nasty. It's that his compliments don't even make sense based on the way he's insulted you. And that's what I find really hard to get my head around. Yeah. I just have to throw in Kip Davis's question too. Did he offer to meet you for pancakes?
He did not offer to meet me for pancakes. It's pretty curt after this. Like you said, I did do a follow-up with him the next week, and I have to say overall that conversation went a lot better. I think he did learn some lessons from this first one. But yeah, this is, again, been sitting on this one for a while, guys. I've been wanting to talk about this. I'm so glad that we at least got to see some of it. You can see what I put myself through for you. Okay, this is for you, chat. I wouldn't do it for anybody else, but only for the greatest community on the internet, and that is the Zidane folks. So I hope you enjoyed what you saw tonight.
And Brad, if you're watching this and you want a round 2, you know where to find me. So
that's right. That's right.
If you want a second guinea pig, I'm here for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I think this is a good place to wrap things up. Any final thoughts, closing words of
my final thought? I'm gonna reach into the chat for.
Yeah,
he complimented you like I would compliment my pet for having a good poop. That's my final thought for tonight.
That's a good one. I like that. Thanks, everybody. Well, have a good
night.
Have a good night.
Voy a cantar esta canción con mucho cariño de mi corazón a la República Dominicana, la casa del merengue y la casa de la bachata. Voy a cantar esta canción con mucho cariño de mi corazón a la República Dominicana, la casa del merengue y la casa de la bachata. La casa del merengue, la y la casa de la bachata. ¡Hey!